picture? Oh, it's recording. Ooh, okay. Why am I so bright right now? That's better. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jasmine. I am the owner of Wicked Vibes Candle Co. And today I decided to make a video on how to start a candle business. So this is how I started my business. This is not a directional guide. This is not a how-to step-by-step process. This is what I would recommend you guys do before starting, and just what I did before I launched my whole business. So let's dive on in. So the absolute first thing, the number one thing, like actually on the top, like before you do anything, you need to buy a candle making starter kit. I don't care if you want to make just wax melts or if you want to just make container candles, you need to buy a candle making kit, and here's why. This is what comes in the candle making kit. It comes with the wicks, the wick holders, the container, or the wax melt clamshells. If you're going to use wax melt, it comes with the wax, and it is basically an all-in-one, so you can figure out if you actually like making candles, because making candles is not easy. It is a process, and people think, oh yeah, you just heat it up and just pour it in a pot. No, there's so much math involved. There's just so much time involved. It is a very long and tedious process that you need to make sure you get right before you launch your products. So why buy? That's why you should buy a candle making kit. It will basically give you an idea if, yeah, this is a long process. I like the process. I can do this every day. Like, it's like one of those things, because if you're a successful business and it's just you by yourself, you're gonna have to make candles like almost every other day, or at least every week. So you need to make sure you actually enjoy the process. You shouldn't start a candle business just to make money. It should be something that you're very passionate about and that you enjoy doing. Stop with the ums, Jasmine. So where can you buy a candle making kit? You can buy one from Amazon if you want. I would highly recommend buying one from a candle supplier. That's because when you buy directly from a candle supplier, let's say you actually like that wax, then you can continuously buy that wax because they'll have it for sale in large bulks from that supplier, because each wax is going to work differently. If you buy it, I would not recommend buying supplies from Amazon. That's just my personal preference. I 100% am all for buying directly from a supplier. That way you know what you're getting. Like, I just highly recommend buying directly from a supplier. Just because you like a candle making kit on Amazon doesn't mean it's going to work the same with the products that you're going to purchase from a supplier, if that makes sense. So buy a candle making kit from a supplier. And I will actually put a list over here of different suppliers that you can go to. These are all UK or Ireland based. So, and then over here is US based. Just a caveat, I've not tried any of the US based companies. I am in the UK, so I don't want to pay shipping for that. But just look. Also, some companies do ship according to weight, so that's another thing to look into, is shipping. But I would highly recommend buying from a candle supplier, whether you're in the US or in the UK. So let's say you bought the candle making kit and you're like, yeah, I enjoy candles, I'm gonna do this full time, like this is something I enjoy, or even part-time. You need to decide whether you want to make container candles or if you want to make wax melts. I originally started with the idea that I wanted to do wax melts, and then as you can see, I went straight into container candles. It's all about your preference. So once you decide whether you want to make container candles, then you need to decide on what kind of wick you want. If you want a cotton wick, if you want a wood wick, you need to do your research on that. Or you can try both, to be honest, you can. So you need to find out which type of wick you want to use. And then for wax melts, you need to kind of decide on what kind of packaging you want to store your wax melts in, whether that's a glassine bag or a clamshell. It's all up to you. There's like a lot, like it's like, here's like container waxes, and then there's a lot of different brackets down below to figure out your end game for it. So let's say you decide you want to do candle container or container candles, or if you want to do wax melts. So you need to figure out what kind of wax you want to use. So you can use soy wax, which is very popular. You can use paraffin wax, which do not read. So I honestly hate when I see on Facebook that people are like, paraffin wax is bad. Paraffin wax is not bad. It is not bad. When people are like, yeah, it's like you turned your walls black, blah, blah, blah. No. All candles produce soot. And if they produce soot, that means they're using the wrong wicks. Paraffin wax is not bad at all. A lot of companies, including Yankee, use paraffin wax. So I want to get that out of everybody's head. Paraffin wax is not bad. So if you want to use paraffin, then use paraffin. There's no shame in it. Let's say you guys found out you want to do a container with wood wicks and you want to use paraffin wax, or you want to use soy wax, whatever you want to use. You need to go into a testing phase, and this is the long, tedious process I was talking about, because testing is not easy. You're not gonna go, you might, I don't know, but usually you don't test a product and then on the first go it's perfect. There are a lot of different factors that contribute to testing and having a successful candle, and so you need to test and make sure your wicks, your fragrance oil, and your wax and the container all are cohesive. They work well together. You need to make sure that they all work well together. So I know you also need to figure out what kind of temperature is right for you for pouring. A lot of people pour their fragrance oil directly after they pour their wax into the pitcher, and then they pour directly into their container. That's what I do. This is Jasmine's process of making a candle really quick. I'll sum it down. So I have an actual wax melter that I bought from Etsy. I will link that down below, and that is a game changer for people that actually want to do this as a business. I highly recommend it if you can afford it to buy a wax melter. It will save you so much time and so much energy. I bought a wax melter. I heat my soy wax. I use 464, and I heat my wax to about 90 degrees Celsius, and then I pour it into the pouring pitcher. So it depends on what fragrance oil I'm using. So if you look on your supplier's website of where you got your fragrance oil, they will list the melting point. So for example, my vanilla hazelnut, the melt point is, I believe, 74 degrees Celsius. So I wait for my wax to cool down to 73, 72 Celsius, and then I pour my wax, and then I pour my fragrance oil in there. For some fragrance oils, if you pour higher than the melting point, then you're gonna burn off that fragrance oil. And I hope I'm speaking correctly. If you're a candle maker, please comment down below if that's how I understood it. So you need to look on each different fragrance oil you have and make sure you read what the melting point is. Most of my other fragrances, like my pumpkin spice, is 90 degrees Celsius, so I wait till it gets to like 85 degrees Celsius, and then I pour it directly into the pouring pitcher. And then I pour, after I pour my fragrance oil into the wax, I directly pour it into my container. That's just my preference. But I know a lot of people wait until it cools down. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, to like 75 to 80 degrees Celsius. But then again, you guys can do your own research on this. There is a Facebook group for the US and the UK. Just search on Facebook candle making groups and just add yourself to those, because a lot of people are posting their trial and error through that, and that's how I learned. And then you'll need to either decide if you're going to use a wax melter or if you're going to use your stove. You're going to have to use a separate pot. I wouldn't recommend using a pot that you actually cook with. Just like buy like a cheap little pot, because so if you use a stove, you should be using a double broiler method, which is basically you fill a pot with like I think 2-3 inches of water, and then you put your wax in your pitcher, because you need a pitcher. That is number one, you need a pitcher. And you put your pitcher in the water, and then it should melt the wax. It's a very long process in my opinion. I don't like that process, and I was doing that for like the first 2 months of my business, and then I went and bought a melter. So you need a stove or a melter. You need a pitcher, and you can get these off Amazon, you can get this off of Candle Science or any of the suppliers that I've listed. You will also need a scale. A scale is very important. Do not try to do this without a scale. You need a scale because you have to measure out your fragrance oil to your wax ratio. You need to do that. Do not pour blindly. It will not work out. You will waste a lot of product. Make sure you are measuring. I'm sorry. I think it's like 10% per ounce or something like that. Yeah, 10% per ounce of wax you use. So my candle jars, I put like about 33 ounces of wax into my melting pitcher, and then I add my fragrance oil, which is about 3.3. Yeah, it's 3.3 ounces of fragrance oil. So that's personally what I use. Again, it could be different for you. I use my fragrance oil at a 10% ratio. Some people, you can use 8%, you can use 6%. I know a lot of people say don't exceed 12%. I don't know why. That's something I need to research, but I just never go above 10 anyway. So you will need a stove, you will need a scale, you will need a pitcher, you will need a silicone spatula for stirring your fragrance oil. You will need a thermometer, and you don't have to get fancy with it. I use one of those, you stick it in there kind of thermometers. A lot of people use a digital thermometer. It's up to you, it's all preference. They all do the same job. You will also need, if you're using a candle container with wicks, you will need wick stickers, or you can buy a heat gun, but you need to make sure it's a high heat gun, if that makes sense. Like, you need to make sure that the heat gun that you're buying, the glue will not melt when you pour your wax into it. That is very important. So once you get all of your supplies, then you'll move into the testing phase. So the testing phase, like I said, you need to test the wicks, the fragrance oil, the containers, and also you need to decide if you're gonna have just plain old Jane white candles, which is what I do, or if you want to like be creative and, you know, have some color in there. You need to also test your dyes, because dyes do have an impact when you're mixing everything together. So when I say when you're doing the testing phase, your testing phase is to make sure you're getting these smooth tops, and you're also going to do a burn test. So the burn test is very important, because when you need to document this. Like, I am not kidding. Do not forget to document this. This is what I did a lot of the time, and I wasted so much product because I didn't document like which one was which wick I used, which wax, blah 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 blah. I did not document any of that, so there's a lot of like wastage going on my end. So the burn test, before you start your burn test, always, and this is just candles in general, always trim the wick to 1/4 inch. Always. You always need to trim your wick no matter what. Let's say this is one of the new candles. So before I light this candle, I will have to trim my wick to 1/4 inch. You need to do that. That will help reduce soot and mushrooming on your wicks. So when you test your candles, if you're testing a large batch, do not test them right next to each other. I know a lot of people put their candles into a box and like just put it up in storage. Don't do that. Don't test your wicks in a box. That can cause sinkholes, that can cause a lot of holes. So when you are heating this is like a rambling now. So when you're testing your candles, you don't want to test them right next to each other. You want them to be spaced out apart. That way you're not getting the heat from the candle on the side, and it's just constantly heating up the side of the other candle. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want it spaced out so they can cool down evenly. After you have your candles poured and they're spaced out, then you're gonna start recording. This candle is this wax with this wick, and then this fragrance oil ratio. And then do that for all of your candles, and then you light your candle, and then you check on it like halfway through just to see if the wick is mushrooming, if there's soot around the edges, and just to see what kind of melt pool. There's no right or wrong answer to what kind of melt pool you're supposed to have. It's all about preference of what you desire. A lot of people are like, in 4 hours you need to have a full melt pool, which is the whole diameter melted to about 1/2 inch deep. but that's not necessarily right or wrong. It doesn't need to be the full diameter, if that makes sense. As long as you're still getting, and I could be speaking incorrectly, like this is not a, like, this is the right or wrong way to start a candle business. This is not, this is just what I've read. So I don't know if I'm right. If you're a candle maker or a chandler, that's how you say it, then comment down below if you have any other advice or feedback, or if I misspoke. But anywho, so you're gonna record everything. Like I said, you're gonna record the melt pool, the suit, and you're gonna record if the wick is mushrooming. If your wick is mushrooming, then you need to downsize in your wick. So after it's burned for about 4 hours, blow out the candle. You never should ever, ever, ever burn a candle longer than 4 hours. Always blow it out, and then if you do want to relight it, then trim the wick and then relight it. You should always start this process again and repeat those steps 5 hours after your first initial burn test. So this is the kind of like condensed version of how to start a candle business. I might go into a thorough version, but this is just kind of like what I did prior to starting, and this is like something I'm still like figuring out. I hope this helps. Make sure you guys do more research into this. There are a lot of groups on Facebook that you can add yourself to that will give you plenty of information. You can always ask questions and people are happy to answer. There are a lot of resources out there. Make sure you use them. A lot of candle suppliers have resources on their websites that you can use as well. I know Candle Science does, I know NI Candles does, I know Candle Shack does. Just make sure you're looking at the resources tabs on their websites for more information. So I hope this video helps. I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I will post more videos just like this. I do plan on doing a shipping video. Next of how and where I get all my shipping supplies from. So yeah, tune in to next week. You the best. Love you guys. Thank you. Bye.